Welcome to Upon Further Review.
Upon further review.
And this is the Thursday night edition. And on Thursday Night Football in Week 9, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. And this is the first time that it will just be on the NFL Network. It's going to be October 30th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. And it will not be a simulcast, as CBS will not be airing the game. The only way to catch this game is on the NFL Network, as these two NFC South rivals battle it out. It should be a pretty good game. Both these teams are pretty much tied. The Panthers have a half a game lead over the Saints. The Saints are coming into the game with a record of 3-4, and the Panthers are 3-4-1. If we look at how the Saints got to 3-4, they started off by losing on the road in Atlanta in Week 1 in overtime by a field goal. Then they went to Cleveland in Week 2 and they lost by just 2 points. Then they went home in Week 3 and they hosted the Vikings and they picked up their first win of the season. But then they went on the road to Dallas as they played their third road game out of 4 weeks, and they lost their third game out of 4 weeks. But then in Week 5, they went back home and they picked up their second win. It was in overtime over the Buccaneers. Then they went back on the road after their bye week in Week 6. They went on the road in Week 7 to Detroit and they lost that game by just 1 point. And then in Week 8, Sunday Night Football against the Packers, they won by 21 points in a game that a lot of people didn't give them a chance to win. Of course, we did pick the Saints to win that one, and they won big at home, as all their victories have come at home and all their losses have come on the road. And other than the Dallas game, those road losses were actually very close, within a field goal at the most, as they lost by 3 to Atlanta, by 2 to Cleveland, and by 1 to Detroit. So not including that Dallas game where they did, lose by 21 against Dallas. But other than that, those 3 losses, Atlanta, Cleveland, and Detroit, were all within a field goal. So now they go to Carolina. And the Panthers are one of just 2 teams to play to a tie, as they played in the only tie, and that was against the Bengals back in Week 6. But they started out the season by picking up a win against the Buccaneers in Tampa, and then they hosted the Lions in Week 2. So they started off 2-0, but then they lost the next 2 games, as they hosted the Steelers and they lost, and then they went to Baltimore and they lost. But then in Week 5, they hosted the Bears and they got a win there in Carolina. But then they went to Cincinnati and they had that tie we just spoke of. And then they went to Green Bay and they lost. And then last week they hosted the Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions, and they lost by just 4 points to the Seahawks. And now they have the Saints coming into town. And it should be a good game, as it always is a good game whenever rival teams face off, especially division rivals. I mean, we saw what happened on Monday night with the Redskins. No one really gave them a chance, but they still came up with the win. So you can't really necessarily go by records, but in this game, these teams are as close as you can be without having the same record. Is the only difference is the tie that Carolina has, because they have not yet had their bye week. So the Panthers' bye week will be in Week 12. But as for this game, let's look at the stats between these 2 teams. And when it comes to passing offense, the Saints are number 2 in the NFL in passing yards per game. The Panthers are 17th. When it comes to passing defense, the Saints are 31st, and the Panthers are 18th. So it's a tough call there of who has the advantage in the pass. Yes, the Saints, obviously, Drew Brees, he's been having a good year, even though they haven't been getting the wins, but he's still been throwing for his yards. He gets his yards no matter what. It's Drew Brees. He's going to pick up yards through the air. But their pass defense is just as bad as their pass offense is good. And with the Panthers being a little bit more even, balanced in that They're both 17th and 17-18 offense to defense. Of course, it matches up the other way. It's their 17th ranked offense of passing game against the 31st ranked defense, and then their 18th ranked defense against the Saints' 2 ranked offense in the pass. So I mean, it's kind of a push. You could go either way, really, with it. You kind of give the advantage to the Saints just because of how productive they can be, through the air. So I mean, even though they can't stop teams, the fact they put up so many, yards through the air, I kind of give it to them. And then we look at the running offense. The Saints are 7th in rushing yards per game. The Panthers are 27th. We look at run defense. The Saints are 10th, and the Panthers are 28th. So right there on the run, you got to give it to the Saints. The Panthers have been struggling with a capital S to run the ball. Of course, injuries have been a big part of that. The Panthers, they haven't really had a really, all-pro running back. And I don't know if I've ever, but I mean, they do have, some talent there, but, their backs are getting older. They've been around. And like I said, they've been, struggling to stay healthy. Of course, Cam Newton, he's, picking up yards on the ground for the Panthers. Actually, in the season so far for Carolina, I should look at his numbers real quick. And Cam Newton actually has rushed for 214 yards. And that's just 3 yards shy of Jonathan Stewart, who's their leading rusher with 217. Newton has thrown for 1,643 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. But anyway, with the run, you got to give it to the Saints. Mark Ingram is back. Even without Mark Ingram, Kyrie Robinson was doing a really good job. He had 330 yards so far. Ingram has 331. So both of them can run the ball. They also have Pierre Thomas. So when it comes to their offense, they definitely have the advantage. And the Panthers' defense, it has been historically good in their short time as a franchise. And even lately, especially, as last year they were one of the best defenses. But the numbers this year are not those same numbers from a year ago, as they're, in the bottom of many statistical categories. So now let's look at the points for and against. And the Saints put up a lot of points. They are 5th in the NFL when it comes to scoring per game, and the Panthers are 24th. And then when it comes to defense, though, points allowed, the Saints are 26th and the Panthers are 25th. So both of these teams struggle to stop teams from getting in the end zone. But the Saints, they have the advantage because they just put up so many points. Top 5, they are 5th in the NFL. Drew Brees continues to get them within field goal range, if not into the end zone. Plus, with Mark Ingram and Kyrie Robinson, have been doing the job as well of getting them, them points on the board. There's the Panthers. They struggle. They're just as bad at putting the ball into the end zone as they are from stopping other teams from getting in there. So really, statistically speaking, the numbers favor the Saints. But this game is not going to be played on paper. I'm taking the Panthers. And obviously, I mean, there's not going to be much question as why. It's because it's in Carolina. If this game was in New Orleans, I'd go with the Saints. Even before the season started, I knew going in, and I'm sure many of you who are listening were very informed, because as many people who leave comments are very informed. Not that we have many comments, but the ones we do have are from people who obviously know what they're talking about. And I do appreciate you listening. I appreciate your comments. And so we all know that the Saints last year were 2-6 on the road and 8-0 at home. That's how they got to 10-6. They made the playoffs. And this year, seems to be more the same when it comes to their struggles on the road and their success at home. And this one's on the road, so it looks like it's going to be another struggle. And yeah, they could maybe get a win. They're gonna get some road wins. That's really if the Saints want to get back to the playoffs, they're gonna have to start winning some road games. They really can't afford to lose any more road games. But I still don't see them winning this one in Carolina. As Carolina's also been a team, they also play really good at home. So, and they've beaten some good teams at home, although they did lose to the Seahawks last week. They beat Detroit back in week 2. And so I think, Carolina has shown that they can, compete with good teams. And, we see this year that there's a lot of parity in the NFL. And so any team can play with any team. These teams are obviously very familiar with each other. They obviously are, pretty evenly matched, at least in the, win and loss column. But they're in Carolina. You got to give the edge to the Panthers, especially in prime time. But also just the fact that they're division rivals. They said they're so familiar with each other. And even though, the numbers and everything play towards the Saints' favor, you would think, like reason and logic would tell you that, the smart bet would be the Saints, especially with how their offense is firing on all cylinders, especially after that big win against the Packers. You'd think that momentum would roll over, and so maybe they do pull off the win. I would not be surprised, if this ends up being one of their, road victories, but I'm definitely wary of picking the Saints when they're on the road. And I really don't see myself picking them on the road, especially, in Carolina. Maybe somewhere else. But, we've already seen that it doesn't seem to matter what team they're against. When they're away from New Orleans, they are a different team. So, I don't know what happens, why they, don't get on the bus. It's the defense. The offense doesn't really have too many issues. But that defense, it's got to stop, teams. And Cam Newton should have a big night against that Saints defense. And I expect him to, show and prove and get in the end zone, on the ground. And also throw a couple touchdowns, most likely to Kelvin Benjamin. Maybe, Greg Olsen, who's also one of his favorite targets. So we'll see. And then we got to, have a big game from Kuechly for Carolina to win. But on the other end, though, if Drew Brees and the Saints can play like they did on Sunday, there is no reason why they can't win this game. He said, statistically speaking, everything plays out in their favor. So it's one of those games where they should win. But will they win? I don't think so. And it's really just a matter of they've got to, prove to myself and to all the fans that they can win on the road. So they're going to have to win on the road before I'm going to pick them on the road. I'm going with Carolina. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Interested to read your thoughts and opinions. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit the like button. How else will we know you enjoy the show if you don't hit the like button? If you want more of this content, go ahead and subscribe. We bring you upon further reviews and recaps of every single game each and every single week. I'm just going to cut the ending short here. So we're tight on time, running a little behind. This is the World Series. The World Series is now over and we should get back on track as pro football is our number one priority. And we'll be back to cover more college football as that's kind of had to go to the wayside during the baseball playoffs. So we definitely enjoyed those playoffs. Congratulations to the Giants as they are the 2014 World Series champions. So make sure to check out those recaps from the baseball playoffs, the wild card all the way through the World Series. And those are up on the site. And you go to the main page and there's right there at the bottom the playlist. So very easy to find. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. Hope you're having a good day, have a great weekend, and enjoy all of the sports.